Okay, folks, so here we go again. We're going to try to share a little bit of insight on what's happening in Harrisburg over the past week. So, as you know from the previous video, they tried to push four gun control bills across the floor for, theater to defend Representative Frank Burns out in Cambria County, who is the fake 2A representative out there. Um, Shortly thereafter, and something that didn't really draw a whole lot of attention, they came up with a House Bill 1891. This was from Representative Belmont down near Philly. And what this bill is designed to do is they call it modernizing the records of firearm sales here in Pennsylvania. So what it actually does, though, they're not really modernizing. They call it that, modernizing records of firearm sales, but really what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a total electronic registry. Currently, dealers have a choice to either file electronically online, as I do, or mail in their documents, their records of sales forms. Now, we've challenged the records of sales forms in the past, all the way up to the Supreme Court here in Pennsylvania, and the Supreme Court ruled at the time that it was not a gun registry. How that can be, I don't know. I read their opinions and disagree. However, they stated that because there are other ways to transfer firearms within Pennsylvania, private sales of long guns, and that you can gift firearms, grandparent to parent to child to grandchild in your immediate family or to your spouse, that it is not an actual gun registry. What's interesting about this is, that though the ruling came down that way, the police still use that quite frequently to run serial numbers and determine who they believe the owner is. They treat it like a gun registry whenever they run those serial numbers. Now, there are a lot of police that understand it is not an accurate depiction of who the current owner of the firearm may be, but not all of them get that. And that comes down to a matter of training. It should be education at this point for them. But I do get phone calls still from time to time saying, hey, I ran a serial number. It comes back to Joe Schmo, and the guy driving the car is Bob Smith. What do I do? And we tell them give the gun back to him. Just because the last record of sale doesn't match the name, if the gun wasn't reported stolen, that does not mean that a crime has been committed. So this becomes an issue, and this House Bill 1891 is trying to modernize firearm sales. And what they're doing is they're trying to force any gun dealer that moves more than 20 firearms in a calendar year to mandate an electronic record. Couple problems with this. First and foremost is now you're forcing gun dealers to absorb the costs of maintaining computer systems maybe they didn't want, internet service, security software, antivirus software, office software for their machines, an internet connection that they didn't want in the first place, where they're perfectly happy, writing out the paper forms and mailing them into the state police on time. And now we're going to force an electronic system, which means we're going to add costs to the FFL dealer. So we oppose it for that reason, obviously. Another reason is this becomes a more reliable system for the state police and for police to track more recent records of sale, which, for law enforcement, that might sound like a great thing. But what it does is it begins to accurize that gun registry. And that is what we're opposed against, right? We don't want the government to have a registry of who owns firearms or who currently maintains X amount of firearms in their home. So, we look at this. The U.S. Department of Justice actually issued a letter to the state police back in 2001 explaining that the record of sale system is in itself illegal because they're maintaining the information. The only way they may legally maintain that information is if it's an illegal purchase attempt. According to the Department of Justice and according to our own actual state statute, Section 6111B6 states that no information received on that record of sale may be maintained unless the purchaser is prohibited. Well, we know the state police violate that all the time because they're maintaining those records. So that's a problem. It's a problem we were hoping to address. Apparently, obviously, when FOAC filed the lawsuit in the first place in state court, and now we're looking at maybe approaching it in federal court as a violation of the federal law, because it is also a violation of federal law for them to maintain those records. So those are our options when it comes to that. We'd like to see the record of sale system completely shut down. And here you have a Democrat representative out of Philadelphia trying to strengthen it. We've had to explain to several conservative pro-gun legislators who are also very pro-law enforcement, obviously. They get a lot of backing for law enforcement, that this, appears to be a good thing, but it's a wolf in sheep's clothing. So we've been trying to get that message out. Now, one other thing it also does, as we said, it violates our own state statute to record these things. However, knowing the state police are doing that already, It does mandate an audit by the state police every year on any dealer who is trying to maintain the exemption. The exemption is selling less than 20 firearms per year. So now the state police are going to have to audit those FFLs annually, not just occasionally as they do now, but annually to verify that they are exempt. And in my mind, that is nothing but harassment. That's bullying a small businessman or small businesswoman into complying with an electronic records keeping system. So we have some issues with this. On the bigger picture, if you really look at this at the grand scale, so we know last week we talked about they passed a universal background check bill out of the House to the Senate, where I'm hoping it is dead in the Senate. We believe it will be. It is in judiciary now, and Senator Lisa Baker there is an amazing pro-Second Amendment stalwart for us. And I don't believe this bill is going to make it to the floor. But if, for some reason, a universal background check law were to be passed here in Pennsylvania, now you're going to have every firearm sale going through a 4473, going through a dealer for a legal transfer. At that point, it would be a simple flip of a switch to add to the bill that all of the firearms done through those transfers must include a record of sale. That would be another statute where if they were able to get universal background checks through, they would then be able to also get that change through as well in a new bill they would author. This electronic filing is sort of setting the stage for that, where it becomes a fast and almost an immediate registry of all firearms transferred. And that's our concern. I consider it part of maybe a 3 or even 4-step process to come up with a total gun registry. The final step would then be to pass a bill that outlaws the gifting of firearms amongst family members and spouses, which would be your final hurdle, right? Right now, as we said, you can gift a firearm from a grandparent to a parent to a child to a grandchild without a transfer, and you may gift to a spouse. Well, let's face it, that's a very small portion of firearms transfers in Pennsylvania. If they're able to limit private sales to mandate an FFL transfer, they're able to force an electronic registry, as this is doing, and then they were able to force that all weapons, all firearms, all long guns be included on record of sale forms, which would be the third step. The fourth and final step to complete a complete and total gun registry would be the elimination of gifting within family. So I think this is just part of a step, one more step along the process. This is not about making law enforcement safer. This is not about getting more information out there for law enforcement. As we know right now, even by our Supreme Court ruling, that what we view as a gun registry is not in fact expected to be a registry. And just because the serial number does not come back to you does not mean it is not your firearm. So it's not really helping law enforcement. It gives them a starting point for the last legal sale of the firearm, and that's it. So these are our concerns. That's why we're opposed to House Bill 1891. Hopefully this puts that in a little bit of a better light for folks to understand the bigger picture behind this kind of bill. It's not only about forcing changes upon federally licensed firearms dealers, but it is another step on the way to a complete and total firearms registry in Pennsylvania. So FOAC obviously opposes it. You can reach me at jstoker@FOAC-ILLEA.org, jstoker@FOAC-ILLEA.org, or visit our website at www.2apa.org to get more information. Don't hesitate to reach out with any comments or questions. Thank you very much for your time.